If you like traveling to, say, anywhere on planet Earth, then we need to do it more sustainably. These are some easy tips that you can do and incorporate them in your next trip. Hi, my name is Lauren and welcome to my channel. I'm really excited for this video today because this is incorporating two of my favorite things, traveling and being more environmentally friendly. So here are some ideas that you can do to incorporate them in your next trip. Let's start with the elephant in the room. Flying is not sustainable, we all know this. But unfortunately, unless you have an electric plane or you can take a boat across the continents like Greta Thunberg, that's just not realistic to avoid flying completely. However, there are ways that you can minimize your carbon footprint when you're flying. Number one, always fly economy. Essentially, the more people that are on a flight, it makes it a little bit more sustainable. Number two, avoid connecting flights. Did you know that the majority of emissions happens at takeoff? So less takeoffs equals less emission. It's obviously not possible to only fly direct. Try and avoid connecting flights when possible. Another great way is to carbon offset flights. Now you can do that by going to a number of websites, and sometimes airlines even send you emails to links so that you can carbon offset. But what I like to do is I like to choose environmental charities based off of the regions that I'm visiting. For example, if you're going to South Africa, maybe you can donate to a charity that fights poaching. Or if you're going to the Amazon, you can donate to a charity that fights deforestation. That way, at least you're helping to preserve these areas for future travel. Let me start by saying I'm not about to tell you to become vegetarian or vegan. I'm encouraging you to reduce your meat and animal product consumption. Now, if your dream is to go to Japan and eat a Wagyu beef steak, then by all means, go for it, live your life. Should you eat it every day of your trip? Not when you're trying to be more sustainable. I'm flexitarian, so I eat about 90% vegetarian or vegan diet, but sometimes on vacation, depending on the country you're in, there just isn't a good vegetarian option, or you're with friends and you just don't want to be a pain. It's okay to break your diet every once in a while. But when I am eating veggie on a trip, I like to use the app Happy Cow in order to find vegetarian restaurants. This is also a great way to spend your money by supporting restaurants that are trying to be more sustainable, especially in meat-centric countries. It shows these countries that vegetarian and vegan restaurants is a good market to invest in, which brings me to the next one. Spend your money in a way that is supporting a healthy and sustainable planet. There are so many ways to do this, but here's just a couple. Support conservation. Go to national parks, areas of natural beauty, anything that the local government has set aside to preserve. This shows local governments that tourists want to come to these areas and that these areas are worth preserving. Don't go to animal sanctuaries. This is another area that you need to tread carefully with. There are so many other documentaries and YouTube videos that have done a better job at covering this than myself. These are the simple rules that I follow. The animal should have free will to move around on its own in a habitat that best mimics its natural environment. You should not be able to touch the animal. The animal is only in captivity because it's unable to be re-released back into the wild. More on this note are animal cafes. I know I'm speaking mainly to Asia here, but I feel like these animal cafes are increasing in popularity all over the world. If anyone wants to play with otters, trust me, it is me. These are my favorite animal, and I have literally planned trips just to see otters in the wild. There are like dog and cat cafes, which can be really good if the animals are well looked after. Also have the availability for adoption, which is great. In an ideal world, I would bring all of my eco-friendly items with me every time I travel, but that's not always possible. However, there are two things that I bring with me every single time I travel. I'm sure I've saved hundreds of plastic bottles and plastic bags over the years just by carrying these two items with me. If you're in a country where you can't drink the water, I always try and find a bottle filler. A lot of times they're at airports, and especially at hotel gyms, there's always a water filter little station. Worst case is you can go to a supermarket and you can just buy a large plastic bottle of water and then just use that to fill up, because at least you're using one large plastic container rather than 4 and 5 bottles a day. You can also buy a water filtration bottle. I'll link some of those down below if you're interested. And in terms of my cotton bag, this is so tiny, it takes up almost no space whenever you're traveling. Whenever I'm in a shop in a foreign country, I always just make sure I have my bag in hand ready to go at checkout, and I'll just put it on the counter. And if I don't speak the language, I'll at least learn how to say please and thank you in those languages. So I'll say please in that language and just kind of point to the bag so that they can see that I don't want to use their plastic bag, I'm bringing my own. Well, not exactly, just buy the right kind of souvenir. Everyone has seen those souvenir shops in the middle of a town or city with those generic souvenirs in them. Shot glasses, t-shirts, magnets, you know what I'm talking about. They're all the same, and most of the items, to be honest, are probably made in China. There are so many ways that you can better spend your money. You can support local. You're gonna see that the items are a little bit more expensive and some of the items could be imperfect. Even though these souvenirs are generally a little bit more expensive, you'll be supporting the local economy rather than these large corporations. Send a postcard. Who doesn't love getting snail mail? It's a cheap gift to send someone and it lets them know that you're thinking about them. Paper items. Keep those train tickets, museum tickets, buy some stickers and put them in a journal or put them on an item that you're going to use for a really long time. This is our cartridge that we bring with us on road trips or when we're camping. Yes, maybe stickers aren't the most eco-friendly material, but it's something that you collect and it doesn't take up space and you're not just going to throw it away. Food or drink is my favorite type of souvenir. Coffee from Hawaii, limoncello from Italy. I love buying something consumable that I can use when I get back home, and it kind of takes me back to that place and that feeling when I had that for the first time. Thrift store shopping. There's nothing more satisfying than finding a unique item when you're in a thrift store, but what about finding that unique item in a thrift store in a foreign country? Who doesn't want to go back home and say, look at this jacket that I bought in Paris? Well, actually I bought this jacket in Vermont, but it was $40 and it's vintage Ralph Lauren, so win. This might be a new one for some people. I'm not perfect. I have used Airbnbs in the past. They price locals out of their homes, which causes a housing shortage. When there is a housing shortage, local governments have to build cheaper housing, which causes land loss or habitat loss. You see this a lot in larger cities, which actually is why some cities are now creating laws in order to stop Airbnb from taking over the housing that is meant for local communities. In my opinion, hotels are way better anyway for a number of reasons. Breakfast is included, you don't have to clean up after yourself like you do in Airbnbs, and then pay a cleaning fee on top of it. It's ridiculous. This is not revolutionary, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it. I use a shampoo bar. I've used one for 5 years. I use it whether I'm traveling or I'm not, but especially when I'm traveling. They don't count as liquids on planes, and you can also double up your shampoo bar as soap. So it saves on space. You're also not throwing away all those little plastic bottles in hotels. If I do have liquids that I kind of can't avoid using, like lotion, I just have a large bottle of lotion at home and then I refill a tiny one instead of having to, every time I travel, go to a store and buy another little travel bottle. The very last tip, and probably the most important one, is don't be too hard on yourself. The main point is that you are trying. You're trying to make more environmentally friendly choices so that everyone can enjoy this beautiful planet. So I could go into so many more ways in order to travel more sustainably, like not taking cruises and using reef-safe sunscreen, over-tourism, but I feel like this video would go on forever, so do your own research instead of taking my word for it. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any more ideas, which there are plenty, please add them below so that everybody can read them. See you next time!